All right, let's talk about the free agents that could make a fantasy impact. And there are several, but we're going to actually stick to the top six, and then I'll just hit you with some rapid fire at the end. There's one in a tier by himself who you deem a fantasy earthquake. And that, of course, is
Mm.
Le'Veon Bell, who we've talked about plenty on the pod. And I mean, obviously, this is a game changing running back talent. I mean, you know that I put him at the top of the list the last 3 years, the guy I would have taken first. Obviously, once the season rolled around, I wasn't going to take him first. I took Gurley first with the RSJ first pick.
Mhm.
But Le'Veon Bell, if you combine his amazing ability to change speeds and get through holes, and also, I mean, he's just second to none pass catcher. Yeah, this guy is a fantasy earthquake. I think that's fair to say.
Absolutely. And then you talk about the ability to shoulder an overall entire offense. The guy had 406 touches the last time he was on a field. He can be the absolute centerpiece of your attack. He's only 27-year-old. I mean, he's a transcendental talent. So he's going to change both real life and fantasy wise the entire just makeup of an entire offense. Wherever that is, it depends on how much fantasy value he's going to have, of course. But either way, I imagine he's going to be going in the first round. If a team's going to meet his 17-ish million dollars a year, you're not going to shell that money out for a guy you're not going to hand 350 touches. This guy's going to be the workhorse he's always been. Otherwise, you're not going to put that type of investment into him. So what are some rumored spots we have for this guy? Well, the Jets, Bucks, and Eagles are the most connected teams, but it's been a crapshoot. The Jets have been the undeniable favorites, according to some, and then they've been showing little interest according to others. So who knows if it's really going to be the Jets. They do have the cap space, the most cap space of anyone. So that's maybe why all these dots are being connected. But the internal sources are saying the team has little interest. They're more interested in the tier 2 guys, which we'll talk about in a little bit. The Eagles are also linked to him, but they're such a committee heavy team. Doug Peterson's already come out and said he wants a committee backfield. So I don't know why they'd go out and get the ultimate pinnacle workhorse of the NFL right now. That doesn't seem to make much sense. Bucks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, of course, as we talked about in the value holes part, the one team that really makes a ton of sense to me. We got Bruce Arians, who makes a absolute feasting for running backs that are big, powerful, and versatile, and that's everything about Le'Veon Bell right there. I think he's a better talent naturally than David Johnson, who had 2,100 total yards, 20 touchdowns, and 80 receptions in Bruce Arians' scheme. So you give him a better talent in Le'Veon Bell, the sky is the absolute limit for him. So that's the ideal fit for me. We obviously, of course, mentioned the Chiefs have been linked to him as well, which would be even better than the Bucks. But to me, Chiefs, Bucks, that's really where I hope this just incredibly versatile, the best vision I think I've seen this generation of running backs. Such great patience in the hole. He's unbelievable. So wherever he goes, I think he's going to be a number one running back. It's just a matter of could he go as high as number one overall.
Yeah, with him, anything's possible. I mean, it depends
Yes.
where he lands. You're right. He's going to make a big impact wherever he goes. I mean, what would be devastating is if he went somewhere like the Jets, because then I could
It's
see him
gross.
being like the RB12 or something like that.
Right, and then getting
Anyway,
just like unmotivated, being in a shitty team, and starting to quit on his guys, getting
yeah,
fat, and like
I really hope that doesn't happen.
no,
All
because
right.
there's so much upside.
All right, tier two, major fantasy impacts. We're going to start this tier off with Mark Ingram, and then we're going to work our way down to Golden Tate, the aforementioned Golden Tate. Let's start with Ingram.
Absolutely. It's kind of like the Le'Veon Bell light, another big-bodied guy that can do all facets of the game. He's a solid pass protector, a great pass catcher, a real potential three-down horse. So that's why he's number 2 on this list. Maybe not the number 2 running back or number 2 free agent available. Remember, this is in terms of fantasy impact, and three-down horses are as valuable as it gets in fantasy and very rare. And Ingram drips in that upside, and he's got some openings that he could fill that with. He is approaching 30, which makes him just real life-wise not the most appealing free agent, but fantasy-wise, this is a low mileage 30. He's got 1,321 career carries. That's right around 163 per season. That's nothing too crazy. The tread on this guy's tires for a 30-year-old running back really isn't that heavy, so I don't think this is that dreaded 30-year-old cliff that a lot of guys hit because they've had so many carries year in and year out. Ingram's a lot fresher than your average 30-year-old running
Yeah.
back. And he seems the second likeliest to have that three-down horse type of ride into the sunset style career here. here for his last few years. Beyond just his own value, though, let's say he lands with the Bucks or the Chiefs. I mean, he'd be an RB1 there. This news, as we've talked about on this podcast, too, is so enormous because it could mean Alvin Kamara is freed up and just an absolute number one workhorse style back. I don't know if Peyton would ever do that, but when Ingram was out for those 4 games last year, Kamara's Ingramless pace, we've talked about this before, 360 touches, 140 receptions, 2,396 total yards, with 1,344 of them being receptions, and 24 total touchdowns with 20 rushing TDs. Now, that obviously is unsustainable, 33 fantasy points per game, 524 total fantasy points. That's not going to happen. He's not going to be that much of a monster, but I think the rushing touchdowns particularly, and some of those receptions that when he was an every down back just went all to him instead of splitting it with Ingram would be possible. So if he's freed up, he would shoot up Kamara right into that top 2-3 overall conversation, especially with Gurley these days having those question marks. So that's where the implications are so massive if Mark Ingram leaves. They're rumored to want to bring him back, the Saints are. They've met with his representatives. Ingram said he'd like to be back because he wants to finish his whole career with the same team. Not a lot of guys do that, he said. But he also did in the same breath say, I want to bet on myself. I want to see what I can do in a workhorse role if that ends up being presented to me. And I think it will. I think he's going to be gone. The Ravens are heavily rumored also to be tied to him. So I hope it's the Bucks. I hope it's the Chiefs. But if not, we talked about how valuable that Ravens spot could be. I think Ingram would be a great fit there.
All right, Golden Tate, you talked about him before. You talked about what a great fit you think he'd be for the Patriots. I mean, he could be a good fit on a few teams. I agree with you on the Patriots fit. Huge disappointment in Philadelphia last year, though.
Huge. And I think it's really tough for a receiver, though, to come in and learn a whole new system, especially one as complex as Doug Peterson's, and thrive. I think that was a stupid move by the Eagles to try to go all in on a team that was crumbling as it was, and then to get a guy that just couldn't pick it up quite. And for Golden Tate, too, he's a cerebral guy, Notre Dame guy, very smart football IQ. So I was surprised that he didn't pick up the offense as fast as anybody could. But that all being said, if he's got a full offseason to learn a system like the Patriots, he's going to be unbelievable. I mean, this guy is a monster after the catch. He can play inside, outside. You can move him around as a chess piece and just run such pristine, well-timed routes. He's fantastic. So I really think a spot like New England would maximize those skill sets for him. Other spots, of course, the Browns and 49ers, as we talked about, would be fantastic. But Tate, clearly in such a lackluster free agent wide receiver class, is the cream of the crop here. And that's pretty shitty when Golden Tate's the only real number one type of style guy. But overall, I really think he's the best receiver here. And, man, he'd be a perfect fit in a team like New England.
All right, we're going to run through these next few pretty quickly because I just had a visitor in here.
Oh, no.
Yes. All right, let's talk.
I'll do my best.
Tier 3, Tevin Coleman, Ajayi, and Nick Foles.
Yeah, Coleman, I think it's a lot of hype, and I don't know if it's necessarily deserved. Yeah, he's a burner. He's got great north-south speed and can get there in a hurry. But he's had those huge runs that really kind of buoy his stats. You see those 70, 80-yard runs that not everyone in the NFL can do. So he's got that type of special quality to him. But he just goes down so easily on first contact. He's not that guy that you can just feed like 25 carries and know you're getting 4 or 5 yards a pop. He always has maybe that one, not always, he sometimes will have that big, massive run, but then he'll have games of like 6 carries for 9 yards. He's never really been a workhorse, never hit 20 carries last year, and that was with Devonta Freeman being injured all year. What a disappointment that was. He was held under 50 or fewer yards in half of his contests. I'm just not a die-hard Coleman fan. I think he's much more of a committee back, which is why he falls to tier 3 for me. He's rumored to be going to the Jets. They're apparently infatuated with this guy. They say they don't want to spend the Bell money, and they'd much rather have a guy like Tevin Coleman at his price. And even there, though, he'd be just, I don't really think I'm going to end up drafting Tevin Coleman a lot because I just don't like him as a talent, and I don't know that any team's going to shell out that type of money to make him their featured guy. And even if they do, I don't think he's going to succeed. So I'm not a diehard Tevin Coleman guy, despite all the natural speed that this guy does have.
Yeah, I'm with you. How about Ajayi, who's burned us 3 years in a row now?
I know. We still keep chasing that, 1,300 total yard, 10 TD season just a couple seasons ago where he, again, one of only 4 running backs to go back-to-back 200-yard games in NFL history. And the company is pretty elite. Ricky Williams, Earl Campbell, O.J. Simpson. I mean, that's some ridiculous company, and Ajayi is one of them. So obviously there is something special inside the guy to be able to do that, but the knees have started to crumble. Does this guy still have it after a torn ACL season? I don't know, but I mean, maybe he does resurge and have one of those just breakout, prove it 1 year style deals and rewards a team for it. There's upside there. I mean, this guy right now is going beyond pick 100 in best ball leagues. Maybe he's the one that ends up getting that invaluable Bucks job, ends up coming out of the gates and rifling off a massive season. It's within his realm of possibilities. So, JJ, just a name to keep on there because running backs can be those guys that just pan out huge. I could see him having a big season suddenly out of nowhere.
All right, last but certainly not least, greatest Super Bowl quarterback in recent memory, Nick Foles. Thoughts about his landing spot? I mean, he's going to the Jags, it sounds like.
It seems like he's probably going to go to the Jags, which for him is a solid landing spot. They're really one of the few teams that's as QB needy as can be. And he's going to go meet back up with John DeFilippo, who was that coach for that massive Super Bowl run, his QB's coach during that stretch run. So he knows what Foles does and knows what Foles does well. He'll scheme to those strengths. Now, this again is more so for the people around Foles, necessarily than more so than him. I don't think I'm going to go out there and say, yeah, Foles, a fantasy sleeper, now going with the Jags, because they don't have a ton of weaponry. They're not an overall offense that you're looking to get a ton of fantasy shares in. But maybe D.D. Westbrook can suddenly break out when he gets some more consistent, leveled-out QB play and gets a play caller into Filippo that likes to pepper the slot and things of that nature. Dante Moncrief leaves, and maybe Keelan Cole now on the outside is the clear-cut number one. So the Jags wide receivers, the fantasy impact and the implications here are more sort of the wide receivers around Foles than Foles himself. But it could be a massive boost that makes those two guys that are brimming with breakout potential finally get over that hump.
All right, we're gonna have to cut it short before the rapid fire version. So maybe we'll get another podcast out of this at some point because there's a lot of other guys that need to fall into place.
You can't give me 2-3 minutes to rifle through as many of these guys as I can.
I can't. When you have children, you'll understand.
The dad life takes over again. All righty, maybe I'll record a quick separate segment like rifling through these guys real fast and send it to you.
I'll get it out. Yeah,
all righty, I'll do that. I'll send you a little Wolf exclusive to get through this one.
All right. You got any social media you want to pump? I'll throw this on at the end.
I'll record all that at the end for you too. How about that?
All right. I'll cut it off.
I think you got to go get to dad duty. I totally understand, my dude.
All right, man. Shoot it my way, and we'll decide whether we want to put this thing out tomorrow or later on. But I'll do my best to get it together.
Sounds great, man. Thanks. Much appreciated.
See ya.